My teen romantic comedy snafu, also known as Oregairu, is one of the most misunderstood romance anime ever made. On the surface, it looks like another cynical high school rom-com with awkward love triangles and sarcastic humor. But underneath that is a story about isolation, self-worth, emotional honesty, and two people slowly learning how to connect with others without hiding behind masks. At the center of the series are two characters, Hachiman Hikigaya and Yukinoshita. Both are intelligent, both are lonely, and both believe they understand how relationships work. But throughout the show, they slowly realize that the way they've been living is destroying them emotionally. This is the story of how Hachiman and Yukinoshita develop throughout Oregairu, and why their relationship is one of the most realistic and emotionally satisfying romances in anime. Part 1. Hachiman's cynicism. At the beginning of the series, Hachiman sees youth as fake. He believes friendships are popularity is meaningless, and kindness is usually just manipulation disguised as social behavior. His famous opening monologue immediately establishes his worldview. He thinks happy high school life is basically a lie sold by society. And honestly, from Hachiman's perspective, it makes sense. He's spent years isolated from others. He's been rejected, ignored, and treated like an outsider. Instead of trying to connect with people again, he builds a defense mechanism around himself: cynicism. If he expects nothing from people, then nobody can hurt him. That becomes the core of his identity. Hachiman constantly sacrifices his own reputation to solve problems because he believes he's already hated anyway. If someone needs to become the villain for things to work out, he'll do it himself. At first, the show almost makes this look admirable. He solves conflicts efficiently, he exposes hypocrisy, he cuts through social nonsense better than anyone else in the room. But the more the progresses, the more we realize Hachiman's methods are deeply unhealthy. Every solution he creates leaves him emotionally wounded. And worse, the people who genuinely care about him start getting hurt too. Part 2. Yukinoshita's isolation. Yukino initially seems completely different from Hachiman. She's elegant, composed, talented, and respected. While Hachiman is socially awkward and pessimistic, Yukino appears cold and almost untouchable. But beneath that perfection is someone just as lonely as he is. Yukino grew up constantly compared to her older sister and pressured by expectations from her family. She learned that vulnerability was weakness and that the only way to survive was through perfection. So instead of rejecting society like Hachiman does, Yukino distances herself from it emotionally. She keeps everyone at arm's length. What makes Yukino such a compelling character is that her intelligence becomes a prison. She understands people so well that she can immediately see dishonesty and superficiality. But instead of helping her connect with others, that awareness pushes her further away. Like Hachiman, she's terrified of genuine emotional dependence. That's why the service club matters so much. For the first time, both characters meet someone who sees through their mask immediately. Hachiman recognizes Yukino's loneliness because it mirrors his own. And Yukino sees through Hachiman's self-destructive martyr act almost instantly. Their relationship starts with conflict because they are essentially reflections of each other. Part 3. The service club changes everything. The brilliance of Oregairu is that character development happens gradually, through small emotional moments rather than dramatic transformations. The service club forces Hachiman and Yukino into situations where they have to interact with people emotionally instead of intellectually. And over time, cracks begin to form in the personas they've created. One of the most important turning points for Hachiman is realizing that his methods hurt the people around him. Whenever he sacrifices himself to solve problems, Yukino and Yui are visibly affected by it. especially during the student council arc and the cultural festival arc. Hachiman believes he's protecting everyone by making himself the target. But Yukino understands the truth. He's avoiding genuine connection. If Hachiman always plays the villain, nobody has to understand him emotionally. Nobody gets close enough to hurt him. That realization leads to one of the most important scenes in the entire anime. Part 4. I Want Something Genuine. The something genuine scene is the emotional core of Oregairu. For almost the entire series, Hachiman has treated relationships like strategic games. He manipulates situations, predicts social outcomes, and distances himself emotionally from everyone. But eventually, he reaches his breaking point. He realizes that the relationships he has with Yukino and Yui are becoming distorted because nobody is honest about their feelings. And for the first time in the series, Hachiman drops the cynical persona. Instead of pretending he doesn't care, he openly admits that he wants something real. Not superficial friendships, not convenient social harmony, not relationships built on lies or pity. He wants genuine emotional connection. That moment matters because it's terrifying for him. For someone like Hachiman, vulnerability is far scarier than loneliness. Loneliness is familiar. Being emotionally honest means risking rejection again. And that confession completely changes the direction of the series. This is the turning point that reflects how these characters have developed throughout the series. Part 5. Yukino Learning Independence. While Hachiman's development focuses on emotional honesty, Yukino's arc is about independence and self-worth. For most of the series, Yukino struggles with making decisions for herself. Her family's expectations, especially the shadow of her older sister Aruno, constantly influence her identity. She's incredibly capable, but emotionally, she depends on external validation more than she realizes. One of the most subtle but powerful parts of her development is learning to express what she wants instead of what others expect from her. That sounds simple, but for Yukino, it's revolutionary. Because for years, she defined herself through achievement and perfection. Her relationship with Hachiman gradually changes that. Unlike everyone else in her life, Hachiman doesn't admire her because she's perfect. In fact, he often sees through the image she tries to maintain completely. And because of that, Yukino slowly becomes more emotionally open around him. You can actually see it visually throughout the anime. In early seasons, Yukino feels distant and untouchable. Her dialogue is sharp and controlled. But later on, especially in Season 3, she becomes noticeably softer. Not weaker, softer. She starts allowing herself to rely on others emotionally. And that's something the old Yukino would never have done. Part 6. Why their romance works. A lot of anime romances rely on dramatic confessions or exaggerated chemistry. But Hachiman and Yukino's relationship works because it's built on mutual understanding. They see the ugliest parts of each other immediately. Hachiman sees Yukino's isolation. Yukino sees Hachiman's self-hatred. And instead of idealizing each other, they slowly help each other grow beyond those flaws. Their romance feels earned because it develops through emotional trust rather than fantasy. Neither character fixes the other. Instead, they create an environment where honesty becomes possible. That's why the ending resonates so strongly with fans. The final confession isn't just romantic payoff. It represents two emotionally guarded people finally accepting vulnerability. For Hachiman, loving Yukino means allowing someone close enough to hurt him. For Yukino, loving Hachiman means expressing her feelings honestly instead of hiding behind perfection. And for both of them, that's the hardest thing they've ever done. Conclusion. What makes Oregairu special isn't the romance alone. It's the way the series understands loneliness. Hachiman and Yukinoshita are characters who spent years convincing themselves they didn't need other people. One hid behind cynicism, the other hid behind perfection. But throughout the series, they slowly learn that genuine relationships require risk. You have to be vulnerable. You have to communicate honestly. And you have to accept that being understood by someone else is both terrifying and necessary. By the end of Oregairu, neither character becomes completely different. Hachiman is still sarcastic. Yukino is still reserved.